It's 7 a.m. in Luxor, and we're going to visit tombs in the Valley of the Artisans on the west bank of the Nile. To make this video, I've found excellent documentation on osirisnet.net. I used some of his photos in the video, and I thank the webmaster for giving me permission to use them. The history of Deir el-Medina began more than 3,500 years ago. The pharaohs of the 18th dynasty decided to have their tombs at the foot of the Theban mountains in a desolate wadi which would become the Valley of the Kings. And to build and decorate tombs and temples, qualified craftsmen were obviously needed. The second king of the 18th dynasty, Amenhotep I, created a special troop of workers called the Servants in the Place of Truth. Some marked bricks from the surrounding walls suggest that the village was founded under Thutmose I. But it seems to have been designed a little earlier by his predecessor Amenhotep I, who was devoted by his people. The couple, formed by the pharaoh Amenhotep I and his mother Queen Ahmes Nefertari in the Theban region, had an extraordinarily active cult following, both officially and popular. It began a century after their death in the 19th dynasty and continued for almost 4 centuries before disappearing completely. The village was expanded several times, first under the reigns of Hatshepsut and Thutmose III, and it reached its full development under the Ramessides. The village, called in the texts Pardemi, which means the town, is surrounded by an enclosure which has a maximum length of 132 metres and a width of 50 metres. There are 68 houses spread out on either side of a main road. They measured on average 60 square metres and were made of stone and raw brick. The floors were made of beaten earth and the roofs were made of palm trunks and branches held together with mortar. Each house had a small cellar and a terrace. The troop of workers usually numbered between 40 and 60 men. 2 teams of men, including water carriers, farmers, fishermen, led by scribes from outside the village, were responsible for supplying water and fresh produce, bread, vegetables, fruit, fish and beer, etc., but also wood and various materials. Launderers took care of the clothes, blacksmiths made and maintained the tools. There were also potters, shoemakers, doctors and guards, the equivalent of our current police officers. And there was even a court to resolve conflicts. The site was occupied for almost 500 years. Its continuous exploration for over 100 years made it possible to accumulate so much information on the daily life of this community of artisans. Egyptologist Bernard Briere devoted 30 years of his life to the meticulous study of the site, and he published the results of his work every year. He found very detailed sketches and documents recorded on limestone chards, but also on papyrus and on other items. This papyrus relates the oldest known social conflict in history. It set the workers of Deir el Medina against royal officials in the year 29 of the reign of Ramses III. Most of the objects were found in a huge well that can still be seen on the site today. We know that there were 3 types of specialists: stonecutters, sculptors, draftsmen or painters, and until the beginning of the reign of Ramses III, plasterers. Surprisingly, there were numerous work absences and holidays, such that almost half of the days in the year were non-working. This left considerable free time for artisans to take on private jobs or work on their own tombs. They built them for themselves and their family just a few meters from their home. But only a very limited number of craftsmen were able to build a funeral chapel or a decorated vault. Barely 50 exist, out of hundreds of recorded burials. Having a grave was truly a privilege. How they were allocated is not known. It's rare that a craftsman from Deir el Medina, if he owns a vault and a chapel, can decorate both. Often he has to choose, and archaeological studies shows that he chooses the burial chamber. This is how Sennacherib has the famous TT1 polychrome vault, while his chapel is not decorated. We'll visit Sennacherib's tomb in our next video.